Welcome to Cancer Out Loud, the Cancer Care Podcast, a show featuring conversations with people living with cancer, caregivers, survivors, loved ones, and the bereaved. Cancer Out Loud illuminates topics like self-advocacy in the face of barriers to care, end-of-life arrangements, meaning-making, and how personal relationships are impacted by cancer. This podcast is produced by Cancer Care, the leading national organization providing free, professional support services to anyone affected by cancer.
Hi, Kimberly. It's so nice to meet you. We're so happy that you have joined us on the Cancer Out Loud podcast. If you wouldn't mind just starting out by introducing yourself, letting us know who you are, where you are, if you feel comfortable, and a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I am the CEO of Infin8 Being, which is a company that does outreach to help others find their best life, especially after chronic illness such as cancer. And I'm so happy to be here with you today and with the Cancer Care family. I already feel close to you as I've used many services, and I'm very grateful to the organization as a whole.
Amazing. And can you talk a little bit about your experience with being diagnosed with cancer?
Sure. Like many people, I think it was out of left field for me. I've been part of what I consider the fitness world and wellness for some time, and really thought I had kind of a handle on life. And this came like right in the middle as I was starting to do new things in my life. And it was quite the shock. The news came in less than a year after having an opportunity for an exam prior to that. And it was definitely something that I did not even expect. I was, in fact, like, okay, let's get this going because I have a bunch of things I have to do.
Wow. Yeah. And when you were diagnosed with breast cancer, was it a metastatic diagnosis at that time?
It was.
Okay.
It was. They actually tested me. I went to the hospital. They were having some day for, Women's Day. And if there was great celebration going on, check in with your health. And I thought, well, before the end of the year, I'll go. And this seemed like a nice little opportunity to have. They had like little chair massage and little things. And so I went, and I was actually excited. I started talking to people and really vibing with people, and I was excited to kind of go through the day and see what that held. And lo and behold, they found something, and they weren't too concerned. They just wanted to bring me in for more testing. That day got longer and longer. And
it's really significant that so much of what you remember from that very stressful experience was the way that other people were sort of behaving towards you and either avoiding, eye contact with you or whatever else that was that you were picking up on, and one of the videos I was watching on your YouTube channel, the Infin8 Being YouTube channel, was like what not to say to someone who's newly diagnosed. So I'm sure lots of folks out there listening to this will be able to relate to some of that, I don't know, just sort of feeling invisibilized or kind of brushed off, or having to kind of navigate all those different dynamics in the room. The doctor's not making eye contact with you, someone's saying something that is not helpful. And it sounds like you've done so much work to really parse out, specific tips that people can take away of like, here's what to say and what not to say. So I definitely want to jump into that. But I'm just struck how grounded it sounds like you were able to stay amidst all of those, dynamics and all of that uncertainty. And it must have just been a really stressful 24 hours for you.
Definitely. And I think a lot of people go through that. For me, resilience is my superpower. So, I'm always going to come back up to the top, just like a buoy in the water. But it does take time, and it does take the work and processing and realizing, and certainly you mentioned the YouTube, that I don't want anyone to have to go through that on either side, because it is quite difficult to hear the news. I mean, most people hear Charlie Brown's parents, want cancer, you know, and then the other people, especially if they've not been through it or they're super close to that person, many a time it's about like, I really don't know what to say. And it's okay to say that. Sometimes it's okay to just say nothing and hug the person, you know, so you definitely feel another person's energy when you take a moment to check in. And if all else fails, how would you feel? What would you need, you know, to be able to help that person?
Right.
So definitely.
And I'm so glad that you're spreading awareness around how to communicate after a cancer diagnosis, because it affects everyone in your life. It affects all of your relationships as the person who's diagnosed. And I think it can be so alienating and so isolating for someone who has cancer, because there's that sense of like, well, I don't know what to say, so I'm not going to say anything. Or I don't know what to say, so I'm just going to, wait
disappear.
Disappear, or wait for them to tell me what they need. And
that's a tough question. I know a lot of people have gotten that question. If you've not been through it, you don't know what you need.
Right.
So you're just kind of navigating together if that person wants to be in your life. But that's another thing. You kind of learn who's who in your team. And it's kind of like a business situation. You have to figure out, okay, who are my heavy hitters? Who are the people that are going to be totally in my corner regardless? You know, there's going to be some anger, there's going to be some sadness and other emotional shifts. Who's that person that's got my back? Who's the person that knows all the appointments when I get forgetful, or the person that steers me in a different direction when I sort of go left because I don't want to deal with it? You know, so many emotions. And then you have that whole management of the cancer side of it, not just the actual physical treatments and all of that at doctor's appointments, but just all of it is just a lot on one person. And it's kind of like a person who just got out of kindergarten and then you hand them a bunch of books and then they're in college and they're completely lost. Like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So
that is such an apt metaphor. You know, it is a whole learning experience, and most people don't have the knowledge or tools to navigate the cancer treatment experience until they need to have them, right? Until they're thrust into that situation. So, and you mentioned at some point that you had been sort of active in like fitness spaces, and I've seen from your Infin8 Being organization that wellness and meditation and mindfulness and holistic care is so important to you and is such a big part of your personal brand, so to speak. And I'm assuming it's a big part of the way you've coped with your own cancer journey. I also think such a big misunderstanding culturally is that, people who exercise or people who are fit or quote unquote, healthy, like can't get cancer, right? And one of the things that you spoke to in the things not to say to someone who's newly diagnosed was, but you're so healthy, you're the healthiest person I know. And how dismissive that can, like, while that might be true, yes, it sounds like you've always really taken such good care of yourself. That can feel really dismissive, right?
Definitely. You definitely feel also like, okay, now I'm being punished. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. It's just, it happened. And this is a new challenge that I'm facing, as opposed to, okay, how did this happen? Let's investigate. I'm curious as well. That's a little bit different.
Right.
Maybe a reframe on that. It's just very interesting because I've heard that as a common thing, to other people who have faced this as well, regardless as to diagnosis, the stage, or the type. These are the types of questions that are generally the ones that people will have, or the statements that they make. And it's very, I don't know if that's like human nature, just don't know what to say. That is why I thought, let me help. Let me help.
Yes, well, you are helping. That's for sure. And I wonder too if some of that has extended even into your having treatment, where something I hear a lot from specifically clients of mine who have metastatic breast cancer, to where you're, managing that as though, it's a chronic illness over time. So,
Mhm.
you might not sort of bear those markers that we culturally in our society read as someone with cancer, right? You might have all your hair. You might not, quote unquote, look sick. Right.
Right.
And I hear
That's
that
the
a
big one.
lot. So someone might say, like, well, you don't look like you have cancer, or whatever kind of misinformed but very well meaning comment might come. I do find that comes up a lot for my clients with MBC, where they kind of constantly have to say, like, no, I'm tired, and or like, no, I do still have something going on with my health that is not over, and it needs to be taken seriously by you.
Yes, definitely. People forget. Pardon me. People forget because you don't look like it.
Mhm.
And so whatever that looks like in their
Mhm.
head.
Mhm.
And so even as you're walking through, a day, you might start with so much energy. I don't know if you have chronic fatigue or not, but then all of a sudden that energy is just zapped and you cannot do anymore and you need to rest. And I noticed for myself, I was a doer for for a long time and quite independent. So that was rough. Just not having the energy or the strength to do something either then or momentarily or during the process. And having people look at you like, what's wrong? It's just a bottle of water, pick it up. Or, why are you so tired? You were fine just a few minutes ago. So it's definitely something I didn't know was going to happen, and definitely something that you have to explain to people because I don't think most people have an understanding of just how challenging it can be, and especially when you've been the strength or the anchor in your family or your friend group or wherever. They expect you to kind of snap out of it. I've heard that too. Why don't you snap out of it? This is should be done now. And it's not that easy. You're managing a chronic disease, not not a cut.
That's so well put, and I think so many people listening to this will feel so seen and heard just hearing, their experience reflected back in your words.
Even with the operation for the double mastectomy, people thought, okay, well, you got through that, so you're good now. And it's like, no, there's actually not only just a healing process physically, there's a whole emotional aspect of that. What does this mean now? How will my life change? Did it change? And, how can I deal with that? And just ushering yourself into a new life, understanding your need for self-care. There's so many different components.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and it's important to make space for every nuance of the experience, even the time it takes to mourn the loss of one's breasts after mastectomy, or mourning the loss of life as you once knew it, right? Or
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
things changing so radically, there needs to be space to honor and process that.
Good. I find so many people trying to wear what I'll call the mask because they don't want other people around them to feel badly. So they kind of save face and look a certain way and present a certain way. And they don't really honor themselves in it. And I think that's all part of it, part of the reason, holding in anger, holding in sadness, and not being able to process those emotions that get stuck in yourself. So it's important to do all of that so that you're completely healed and not, just one part of you taken away. You honor the loss and then move forward for what you're going to receive next, which hopefully is some beautiful gift of life, and to thrive and to be able to help others through is very important to me.
Yeah, so I'm so moved by just seeing how you've taken this experience and really used it to make meaning out of the experience, and to really focus on spreading awareness and helping others. That's such a beautiful way to, make all of this just make some sense, right? Or try to find ways to be of service to others who might be struggling and need support. And you're also working as a health coach now, I read. Is that right?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely. I thought I'd step into that since it was kind of a no-brainer. I was kind of already doing it with the training that I, had done for so many years, but this is just yet another facet of wellness.
Wow. Wow. And, something that I think can be hard for folks who don't have a background in fitness or don't have a lot of familiarity with mindfulness, breath work, all these tools that you're such a big proponent of. What do you say to folks who come to you and they're interested in these, ways, these coping tools that you're offering, but they feel intimidated by it, or they think like, oh, I can't meditate, I tried it and I couldn't get my mind to slow down. Like, how do you make this accessible to people? Because I do see that you want everyone to access these tools that have helped you so much.
Yes, integrating the tools are so important because there is something that can help you tap into your greatest strength. And that, whatever that is a practice just for you. And you kind of find it. And when you explore, that's one of the things that I'm a proponent of, which is to just explore. There are no real rules. For example, you mentioned with meditation, I think it's gotten a bad rap because, like you said, you're trying to quiet that monkey mind, so to speak. You're trying to not have thoughts. Well, we're human. We are going to have thoughts. Mm-hmm. So for that, you're just kind of, okay, that's a thought. Thanks so much for coming. Maybe we'll explore that later. Maybe we won't. And then you let it go. And then go right back into where you were for your meditation. That's why some of the guided ones can be helpful. It gives your mind something like a trigger, an anchor for you to focus on. And then there are things like TM, transcendental meditation, which also, but the premise is the same, which is that, thoughts are okay. We are human and we're allowed to have them. And when you have the thoughts, it's really just your body's way of throwing off your worry, anything that's going through your mind at the time, maybe an issue that you're having. A lot of time you'll have this meditation and then realize later that, hey, maybe that email wasn't that bad, or, I misread something in a text, or now that I'm calmer, I can actually feel what is the right choice to make. So that's why it's so beauty. And there are many mindful practices, grounding, yoga, so many things. So yes, I'm definitely someone who integrates everything because I believe that they're all tools to be used for us to get our best life, our best effect, or our best healing effort.
Smooches.
Infinite being, use your intention, love.